welcome to finally Friday Facing the Lion. Our question is always, what challenges have you faced, past or present? That is our Vibe Talk question, and our lines are open. You may call directly to our podcast, 661-503-8993. That is exclusively to our radio show, Vibe Talk Facing the Lion. We're asking that question, and we say good morning to one and all. I see you, Maddie. Good morning. And how are you this morning as you are here with me? We are talking about challenges that we all face. And Friday is our day to really get into challenges that we've been facing either in the past or presently, as present as this week. If you haven't gotten the chance to subscribe to our YouTube page, it's free, our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. You won't miss a beat. It's very informative. And we want to tell you, too, that next Tuesday we are going to have a discussion on change and transformation. And we've invited everyone. So it'll be right here on our Facebook channel. And you can go ahead and look it up at Vibe Talk. You will see this logo, which is our logo, the lion. Good morning, I say to you. I am thankful for getting through the week. Just being able to get through the week with much praying, and hoping that all of you are just getting through the week. It's times like these that we are very grateful for discussions. We are a interactive podcast, and I like it that way. We're going to be getting into the challenges of life and how to deal with it. Thank you for joining us, and we're here. And I want to just start by asking you, what have been some of your challenges? And how are you dealing with them? We're going to talk about different challenges. When you and I deal with challenges, the natural reaction is to perhaps feel like you're not in a positive frame of mind, because sometimes our challenges can be very challenging and hard to deal with. How do you feel when challenges come your way? Think about our reaction to the challenges that we have, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what your reactions are to the challenges. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the way we deal with challenges are different for everybody. Everyone is affected differently. All challenges are not the same challenges. So what challenges have you all faced this week? If you ever feel like you don't want to really say it over the radio and podcast waves, you can always text that number, and we get that. We're so grateful. Thank you, Maddie. And we're grateful to have all of you who have been with us. And if you ever feel like you can't get enough of Vibe Talk Facing the Lion, go to our streamlines. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, our streamline is there. So life's experience, they affect us, and that's why we talk about them. If you are online, please use your chat box, and you may ask questions even on our YouTube channel. And thanks to my co-host for making it so ready and updated. Go check it out. And good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
So now, life's experience, our upbringing, our environment, it all influences the way we think and feel and how we're going to respond. How have you guys been responding to the challenges you face? Because some challenges are very minor, while other challenges are very huge. How would you rate yourself when you think about dealing with your personal challenges? I'm getting better. I'm responding better. I am responding so much better because each challenge provides for me a different response. And each challenge that I face helps me to get stronger. How many challenges have you all been through that you have been made stronger than the challenge that you had before? Anybody?
I've been through quite a lot of them. A specific one I can think of is public speaking. And I'd like to say that Vibe Talk prepared me for that because it helped me like talk to people and get comfortable with being myself when I'm with people.
Yeah. How about that? Yeah. And if you guys want to comment, go ahead. Put your comments there. Thank you for that. Do you think it's made you stronger, Trish?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you're facing challenges, how many of you feel supported by the challenges that you're facing? Anybody feel like you've got a good support system? The room got silent. Let's talk about that. A good support system is vital when you're facing challenges. Someone that you can talk to, someone that you're going to be able to say, this is how I feel. Nobody wants to face their challenges alone. But if you are facing your challenges alone, know that there are so many others, and that's why you have such a podcast like this dealing with emotional health is what I should say. Good morning, and that's Paisley. Good morning, and welcome to our Facing the Lion podcast. We are live, and we're talking about challenges. Our question is, what challenges have you faced, past or present? And how is it making you feel? How many of you are aware of the challenges that you've had to face? You're aware, and maybe your being aware helps you to understand what it's all about. Because I'm going to tell you, everybody in this room is feeling a different challenge. Everyone that listens to this podcast may feel differently. We want you to know that even if you feel like you're struggling, you are not alone. You are not alone. Thank you for that, our audience member. And where are you listening in from, please, and thank you. The fear of change. Yeah, that one gets me too. Because I'm going to tell you something. I hate change. It's so hard for me to adjust to change. How many of you feel like it's hard to adjust to change? Anybody?
I do.
You do? And why do you feel like that? It changed.
Because I'm comfortable with what I used to be. I feel like it's normal. It's my norm. And when I see I have to change something, it's like, oh, do I have to start over again? Like I did all that work.
Yeah.
And then that's how it feels for me.
How many of you feel like change is like a big, fat, plushy couch? And in that big, fat, plushy couch, it's a normal seating that makes you comfortable. Or you feel like staying in the same place is like a big, warm security blanket. Anybody feel like that staying in the same place is a security blanket for you? I do.
I do.
I'll tell you what, when I was teaching the very young, having to change classrooms, that was really hard. But then you get used to it. Paisley says the fear of being alone in the end. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, Paisley. We're going to talk about that. And the fear of never achieving a certain goal. Anyone recognize the correlation of Paisley's sentences?
I do.
What do you see in the sentence?
Each one says fear of at the beginning.
Fear. What is the challenge of fear? What have we learned about fear thus far? Fear does what to us? Stops us in our very tracks. So Paisley, keep your comments coming because we're going to be talking about that. And again, Paisley, where are you listening in from? What state, please? When we ask you that, we don't want your address. We just want to know what state, because Vibe Talk has reached so many states. We'd love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel under this same name, Vibe Talk. Go check it out. I think you guys will really enjoy it. Georgia, thank you so much. So fear either stops us or it can cause us. What do you think it can cause us? I want you to fill in that sentence because we're going to talk about fear for a little bit. And as you do that, we're going to be right back with our commercial break. Be right back.
Podcast. Come check your favorite streaming platforms. Feel free to be interactive and tell us your stories. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, YouTube, and it's so much more. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Go give it a shot.
As we're talking about our challenges and are being challenged, what do you think fear does? Thank you so much, Paisley. Thank you. What do you think fear does? Who can tell us? Let me ask you guys. How many of you think that fear is a negative emotion?
I do.
Fear. And why?
Because it doesn't make me feel great. So to me, it's negative, and also it has a negative impact on me in certain situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And fear also can be a positive emotion. And I'll tell you how. You know, when we think of a healthy fear, healthy fears are when we see signs of beware of dog. When you see a sign that's on a gate, that healthy fear has already made you aware that what's in the gate? What's in that gate?
A dog.
A dog. So your senses have already said, there's a dog in this gate, so I'm going to be cautious. See, I would be cautious and not necessarily fearful unless I'm inside of the gate. So you people that are going in gates that say, beware of dogs, start having a healthy fear and don't challenge that. Because I know of some stories that people have challenged that fear and it's been a very negative outcome. Fear of God, God-fearing people. When you say God-fearing, does that mean that you're afraid of God? No, not the God that I know, because the God that I know is very loving. The God that I know is a God of love. And that God of love, Jehovah, is expecting and requiring from us a healthy respect, a reverent respect for his principles and his laws. Did you guys clearly understand the healthy fear and the unhealthy fear? The healthy fear and the unhealthy fear. I like your question. The Bible, I'm a Bible reader. That's how I know. That's how I know. And when you look at all the creation, certainly man did not make that. When I think about the elephants, the giraffes, man cannot be given the credit that they made that. So that's how I know that God is real. Thank you for that question. Now, when we think about our becoming aware of our emotions, they can challenge us. Fear stops us from understanding what could be. What could be. So I want you to understand that even those fears affect your mental and emotional health. And that's why you're here to find out what it is that I want to say. Now, do you challenge some of your fears? Going back to what Trish said. Trish, as you think about the fear of having to change, and mine was the same thing of having to change. Did you challenge yourself?
Yes, I did.
And when you challenge yourself, how did it make you feel? And I asked that question for everyone. How did it make you feel?
To be honest, at first, when I challenged myself to change, it made me feel like, should I be doing this? I was questioning myself.
Mm-hmm.
But as I kept going with it and I saw how positively the change has been affecting me, I kept going with it because it's a good change. So I needed that.
Mm-hmm. So Trish challenged herself. I challenged myself because in the years of early development of teaching, every year it was going to be a new set of children, a new set of students. And just like with Vibe Talk, not having known in the very beginning of doing life coaching, I knew nothing about the podcast. But I challenged myself, and the change has been good. So when you challenge yourself with the negative of fear, your response might be that of growth. How many of you would like to grow in your emotions, the way you feel? I know I would.
I would.
Yeah. How many of you can compare to yourselves versus how you felt maybe 6 months ago, a year, versus 2 years ago? You recognize your growth and your emotions. When we challenge ourselves, life's challenges begin with us thinking about ourselves, getting through the difficult times. You may wonder, why are we Vibe Talk Facing the Lion? What do we know about lions? Don't you want to have that kind of empowerment? Because lions aren't scary. They're not scared of, I should say, anything. They're not afraid of anything. So, use your lion power to think about your emotions and how they affect you. We're going to be really getting into the meat of this with all of our heart. And we're going to start with loneliness. Have you ever felt lonely? Was there ever a time where you all felt lonely? Any time in your life?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll tell you about mine. My loneliness happened when my firstborn nephew, died. No matter how many people surrounded me and supported me, I felt lonely. And part of that was because I needed to grieve. And I needed to grieve with taking some time out for me. But yet I did the opposite. And no matter where I went, when people gathered around me, I was feeling lonely. What about you, Trish? Because we're talking, ladies and gentlemen, about challenges. And one of the challenges of so many people today is loneliness. Go ahead, Trish.
This hit my chest for real. Like I can feel this question. I
I love
last
it.
time I the last time I felt lonely was when I was going through the lack of self-love. That's when I felt lonely. I felt like I was really by myself, and when I was trying to support other people while dealing with that, it just made me feel even more lonely because nobody bothered to ask me how I was doing.
I felt that. Yeah. And see, mine is totally different because where people were trying to be with me and around me, I was still feeling lonely because my heart was grieving my nephew. It was like having someone just snatched away from you. But now, how many times do we think about the elderly? How many of us know elderly people? Are you still here, Maddie and Paisley? And thank you guys for joining us. Who's still here? Because we're talking to everyone. People are going to hear this worldwide. How many of you know elderly people?
I do.
Elderly people. I do. Do we understand how difficult it must be for them to be lonely? Every time I see an older person, I'm going to tell you how I feel. I always say, where's the family? I had the honor to go visit a friend, and I barely knew this person. What bothered me is even though she has many visitors, the thought that she might be lonely. When we went to visit her in the senior home, the first thing she said to us, she gets lonely. Now, I want to talk to you for a moment, because if you will still have grandparents living, I do not. But if you have a grandparent or grandparents, some people are even so fortunate enough to have two sets of grandparents with great grandparents. They are pretty fortunate. But I want to talk to those of you who have grandparents. When was the last time you really went in just 5-10 minutes of your day? So about them. Because you see, loneliness has an effect on your mental well-being. Or are we so busy in life that we don't think about them? We don't see them, so we don't think about them. Some people out there wish they had grandparents. Please take the time out to visit those people that are lonely. Loneliness has been a cause for some to have ended their lives because they think that they're the only ones and nobody cares about them. Upon visiting this newly found friend, I felt so much better because you see, one or two people that take the time out to visit someone lonely or to think about someone who is lonely, it can change their life just like that. She was so grateful to have us come and visit her. Let's think about them. When you visit a lonely person, they'll tell you many great stories. I don't know if you all have had that experience. Trish, have you had that experience of a lonely person that you thought was so lonely, and then you get there and they're encouraging you.
Yeah, my grandfather.
Yeah. They tell you stories and you don't want to end the visit. When my children were very young, starting from the age of 7, I would take them to older friends, older people. I would take them to older people. Why was I doing that? So that they can learn from experience. The older people have the best experience in life. And my children have no doubt memories. Memories. My children would go, and the older people that we know would help them. Or they would ask my children to help them. And I would always tell my children, you're not going to get paid for that. You're just going to do that just because it's the thing to do. We had some neighbors, one to my right and one to my left. The older lady would, for my youngest son, ask if he could either take her trash cans out or put them back. And he would do that. He would do that at a very young age. And then there were others, because I cared about the elderly, would ask if my kids could help with something special. A lot of times they're lonely. They like to talk a lot. And before you go, you got to let them know that, you want to come by and you need to leave at such and such, because I have a friend that's an older friend that can't get away. I have to always remind her, I got to be somewhere, but I want to come and see about you. They love to talk. Young people are lonely too. It's just not affecting the mental health of the older people, but there are some young people, some people that are middle-aged like myself, that are lonely. Take the time to find out why they're lonely. When we think about loneliness, it's personal. When a person says to you they feel lonely, it is very lion-like courage for someone to admit that they're lonely. Never take that for granted. Some of us feel lonely, and we live with that each day. It's not just a passing thought. But if you are experiencing loneliness, some of your loneliness can come from your emotion, or being emotionally lonely because you don't have a close friend, or somebody doesn't have a confidant. A confidant. Many people are socially lonely because they don't have friends that they can share their interests with. While others are lonely in that they're in a room full of people but feel alone. That was the loneliness that I was talking about when my nephew died. It wasn't that I didn't have support. I just felt lonely because he was no longer here. Now, when you think about your loneliness, there's going to be times where you may feel occasionally. Are you aware of that? Sometimes when the house is quiet, I may be lonely because my house has people here. Some people may get lonely only at certain times. I want you to gain your lion-like power to be able to talk about these things. While there's others who feel loneliness and they're overwhelmed by loneliness. See, we can challenge ourselves to think about loneliness. Feeling isolated. Loneliness, ladies and gentlemen, affects us, you, him, they, them. Loneliness, what does it look like? It has no stat info. You couldn't pick them out in the room, but we're going to talk to you for a moment. How many of you get lonely or feel nervous about going to social events?
I do.
You feel, yeah. And so, do you go or do you stay home?
I stay home.
Yeah. Have you ever thought, what would have happened if I went to that social event? How many of you have ever thought about that, you listeners and those of you in the audience? How many of you would think about that?
I have.
Yeah. So, how many of you wished you had gone anyway and fought and challenged your being lonely?
I do.
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. Lonely people. What is your daily routine? Some people aren't lonely because now you got the internet. You still have TV and you have streaming things. While others stop taking care of themselves. Have you ever been at the point where you just stop taking care of yourself? Almost as if nobody's going to see you anyway, so why does it matter? She changed that routine. How many of you are finding while you're feeling lonely that you're having difficulty going to sleep or staying asleep? Anybody?
I have.
Yeah. What we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, I have a reel that's out. I want you guys to pay attention to the reel, and I put with the reel, it'll be on our Facebook sometime today, our YouTube, come together. Because when we have challenges, instead of shrinking away, we need to come together. Because loneliness affects every person. You have been at a time in your life where you have felt lonely. And that's what I mean, that it has affected every person. Think about that for a moment. When we're lonely, I want you to think about the people that have dementia. If you've ever been around someone that has dementia, it's hard. And I pray that no one in my family gets that, because it breaks my heart to know that their memory is leaving and how they must feel. Loneliness also is beset by some stress and anxiety, causing depression. Well, when we think about loneliness, what caused our loneliness? I talked about mine. I was very lonely because my nephew, my firstborn nephew, died. I felt very alone. But now, if you are lonely and you can't figure out why you're lonely, this is the podcast for you to challenge yourself. First, to find out why. I talked about losing a loved one. How many of you have felt lonely because you ended a relationship? I have.
I
Yeah.
have.
The relationship was bad, and I said, gotta get out. I knew that doing that, I would not have him. You feel very, very lonely because that is the person that you do things with. That is the person that you talk to. Now, how about changes that happen? You know, we move. How many of us have moved in our lifetime? And we move from a familiar area. How many of you have felt lonely? Anybody? I mean, hitting home with anybody.
You are.
Yeah. We move. We feel differently. Those of us who have grown up and left home, we go off and live in our own rental spaces or our home spaces. We feel differently. Change of job because you've got to learn new. Trish, you talked about that in when you talked about having to do something different. Not changing jobs, but you were talking about your loneliness and changing. Postpartum, for you women that have dealt with that, I had that. That was another time I felt lonely. But again, I had support. So I'd like to thank everyone who supported me. Because I don't know if I would have made it or the baby would have made it had I not had that support. And I want to talk to you, new mothers. If you are feeling like that, there is nothing to be ashamed of because your body goes through a lot of chemical changes. You have just birthed a real life baby. Because I didn't know what those emotions were all about. And I am so thankful that I got the help. Health conditions, people that are shut in. You know, when we had Zoom, I never really thought about it. But when we all had to get on Zoom because of the COVID, people started experiencing loneliness and they couldn't take it and they were afraid. Many people. That's when we started this Vibe Talk because we knew that people needed to reach out. How about you parents that now have to take care of your parents? Yeah. Challenging times. So when we challenge you every week and we ask you the question, what challenges have you faced, past or present? You can include some of these questions. How do you deal with it? What do you do when you want to lift out of your loneliness? Stay in touch with people. You don't have to have 150 people, 569,000 that some of your Facebooks and TikToks have. One person. When you're talking to someone, how does it make you feel after you talk to someone? How does it make you feel? What would you say, guys?
I would say after I talk to people, I feel better because the thoughts aren't stuck with me. So I would say, so I'm talking to other people so they can hear me out, and talking to them helps me hear myself in a way, so I can understand me, knowing that they're listening to me.
When people, thank you for that, Trish. When people first came to Vibe Talk, we did it as a group, and we still want to get back to that. They talked about loneliness, but then they talked about how it made them feel better that they were here with us in a group. You remember those times, Trish?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. They got to meet people. They got to interact. That's why our podcast is interactive. I want to thank Maddie for joining us every morning. Thank you so much. Thank you. Because it's people like you that keep us going, Maddie. Because every time I come on, the other morning you were the first one here. Thank you for that. So proud of you. Think about the shy people and how they may be lonely. Do things that you enjoy. Always, always, always share your feelings with someone that you trust, because that can really help. And stop beating yourself up. Stop comparing yourself with other people. We want you to be able to share the good, the challenging, and the not so challenging. See, everybody tells you, if you want $1,000,000, you're going to get on your social media and tell people what just happened to you, because you know that's good news. But we want you to be comfortable enough to tell your story, because people are listening. And if you don't believe us, go to our YouTube channel. You never know, ladies and gentlemen, what people are going through. We're going to be right back. Be right back. Join us Saturday nights on our Facebook Live at Vibe Talk for Vibe Talk After Dark, your smooth and chill radio. Your song dedication. What song can I play for you? Saturday nights, Vibe Talk After Dark. We are back, and thank you guys so much for still being here. We must remember that every person that we see, we don't know their story. Let's try to remember, though, that they might not know what you know. Let's be attentive, especially to people that we do know. Let's think about that. So now we've talked about a few things that challenge us, and we can relate, right? We can truly relate to what they're going through in life's challenges. How many of us are trying to maintain a relationship with someone? Anybody? We talk about relationships here as well. Anybody?
I would say I am.
Yeah. You try to maintain good family relationships. You try to maintain personal relationships. It's important for us to improve because why? It affects our mental health. Now, when I say maintaining relationships, I'm talking about the ones that are not toxic. Put that in your mental note. How do we do it? How do we get the stress and the anxiety out of relationship? Because let me tell you something. If your relationship of any kind, family, friend, foes, because some people try to keep their relationship with people that they know are toxic, let that go. Come a little closer. I said, let that go. First, let's start with ourselves. How do you view yourself? How do you think about yourself in connection with yourself? See, it's one thing to parade that you care about yourself, but there's a whole other thing when you really can find more things that you hate about yourself and less things to love about yourself. Let's start with ourselves in thinking about 5 things that we like about ourselves. And if we can do that without an and a let me think about it, we need more work to connect to ourselves. Because see, you can't have a healthy relationship with others until you begin with yourself. How are you treating yourself? Do you speak well into yourself? Have you challenged yourself to speak well into yourself? How do you look after yourself? See, because I used to be the person that would nurture other people when I didn't care 1% about myself or what happened to me. That was toxic in itself. So I learned through much counseling that I was valuable. I still feel that. See, I needed to understand what the value of me is. If you're not there yet, I ask you every day to write something well about yourself and put it in a safe place like a jar or a box. But list those things that make you you and remind yourself. Because if you don't remind yourself, who do you think is going to remind you? Maybe there are little things, you know. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes our personalities individual. Because I like going to the beach while you might like shopping at the mall. I like that too. Prices are overpriced, but I love the beach. Find out what your individuality is, your esteem. Because in relationships, we're so worried about the other person and we put ourselves last. How many of us think about positives? Think about how we think and feel. If we're a positive person, challenge ourselves to be more positive. If we're a negative person and everything is a negative, because we do have a lot of negative Nellies that have come into our lifetime. You know some, I know some. But if they were more positive, you would probably be more tolerant of them. If you're finding that your thoughts are leaning more toward negative, be a positive person. Find one positive thing to say about someone, especially the people that you can't stand the way they ruffle the bag of chips. You absolutely are disgusted with the way they take that chip out and the way they chew the chip. You just cringe because everything about them is negative. Yeah. How many of you have ever experienced that? Anybody?
I have.
Yeah, and how did it make you feel? You say, that's the guy with the chips. That's the girl with the chips. I can't stand the way she holds that bag, and I can't stand the way she chews when she chews. How did it make you feel?
Yeah, people used to do that to me in school. I didn't do anything wrong. I know that now, but like people were just, I don't want to call them haters, but they were on me,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me feel like maybe it made me feel like maybe they have a reason for that. I don't know. Like that's what it made me think. Like maybe it's a reason. I never actually thought deeply into that.
Yeah, but vibe talk makes you think about it, right? Yeah. If you are the person that the people hate because the way you eat the chips or the way you grab the bag and everything about you, they hate in their existence, ask yourself, how can you be a more positive person? But I want to lay this on the table. It doesn't matter what you do. Some people just aren't going to like you. You are not their bag of chips.
I needed that.
And that's okay. We all feel a little hurt when someone doesn't sip our cup of tea. I like tea, but I don't drink everybody's tea. We must remember that. That is challenging to our emotion because some of us were taught that we should like everybody. We were brought up to believe that. Even when we're feeling that way about certain people, let's find something good to say about them. We don't have to be their best friends. I'm not everybody's best friend. They're not my best friends. Because when you do that, you're going to challenge yourself to be a more positive person. Challenging, you say. Yes, it is. So work on building good, healthy relationships with people. What do you think makes a healthy relationship? Let's ask that question. What do you guys think makes healthy relationships? Anybody? And for those of you listening on our stream podcast, you may join in.
I think what makes a healthy relationship is when they try to understand each other and they try to consider each other's feelings. And I also think what makes it even more healthier is when they take time and be thoughtful of one another.
I love that. How many of you like it when people actively listen to you?
I do.
Yeah. Let me give you an example of an unactive listener. You're talking and they start looking at their watch, their Fitbit. What's that other thing that you can answer the phone? Their Apple Watches. See, that's not an active listener. A person who is actively listening to you does not include the words, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. See, that doesn't mean they're listening. A lot of times I use that if I'm sleepy and I'm watching a movie and somebody wants me to watch a movie and they say, what happened in the movie? And then I say, uh-huh. And they come back and they say, you didn't even watch it. You were asleep. Are we sleeping in a metaphoric way when people are talking to us? Are we watching our watch because we don't have time? That, ladies and gentlemen, is not an active listener. An active listener is a person who really challenges themselves to be focused on not your words only, but your face, your body language. Because that is what I look at when I'm speaking to a person. Even when I am doing a one-on-one session with people, here's what I determine. Are they paying attention to anything that I'm saying? And that's the reason why I tell you guys, when you make calls to our direct connect and you want an appointment, your first appointment must be video calls. Because that way you are focused on the conversation. You're focused, actively listening, actively being able to communicate, comprehending the words that are coming out of a person's mouth. You know, your well-being is important. Your well-being is very important. How do you take care of yourself in relationships? We talked about getting rid of the toxic, setting boundaries for yourself, taking time out for yourself, and talking with people that you trust, even if it's one person. Now, in relationships, conflicts are going to come up. I had someone literally hang up on me. And to me, you didn't hang up because it was hard for you to comprehend. You hung up because you didn't like the words that you were hearing. And then when you ask, why did you hang up? They want to give you an excuse. Sometimes we have to admit that we don't want to be active listeners. And much of active listening is done with the heart. When I say, did you hear what I said? You say, uh-huh. And then I say, repeat after me. You can't repeat it because you didn't hear. So the next time somebody asks you, did you hear what I said? Did you understand what I said? The nicest way to put that is, I have received what you've said, even if you don't agree. Ask questions, always in a relationship. Thank you so much. Whistle. Where are you listening in from? And thank you so much. We are live on Facebook. We're talking about challenges that we meet. And I'm so glad that you guys are all here. We're doing a good job here today. Your communication and conflicts, talk about them. They're not always easy to talk about, but the more you talk about them, it's going to help you to feel better. You know, there's going to be arguments, disagreements. Let's take the time to challenge ourselves to ask questions. By the way, those of you who are in abusive relationships, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're staying in the relationship and needing to needing to know if you should leave or not, here's what I want you to ask yourself. How does it make you feel? Any abusive relationship. See, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to say, how does it make you feel? Your mental health and your well-being. How does it make you feel? There's always help for abusive relationships. I'm going to leave that right there. There's always help. So now that you have been challenged, how are you doing? Vibe Talk has brought to you coping skill. Strategic. We do work in here, don't we, Trish?
Yes, we do.
We don't tell you the answers. We make sure that you understand life's challenges. Life's challenges presents so much challenge that we're overwhelmed with these challenges. Life changes, work stress, home stress. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? How does this make me feel? Get with groups such as this one. It doesn't have to be Vibe Talk, but if you like it, fine. If you don't like us, there's other things that may fit you. But I thank you for being here, and if you're still with us, thank you. We're going to be right back after our commercial breaks to hear Trisha's treasures. Be right back. It's hard for me because I'm not focused on it. So what do you need to change about that? You need to focus on yourself. How do we do that? We don't become blind to everything around us. We have an incredible desire to help ourselves. You know how people say, may I help you? Ask yourself, may I help myself? Give yourself permission to help yourself. Because if you're always thinking about making the change, but never doing anything about it, you're never going to see that change. Live Talk Facing the Lion podcast, streaming wherever you listen to your podcast. We're back, and we're going to turn it over to Trish's Treasures. Trish.
Challenges in my life have taught me a lot of things, but in the midst of my challenges, I do have fear and fear of fear of the challenge not ending for it to be. I have fear of it lingering on for a long period of time, and sometimes I have the fear of it being a big challenge that I won't be able to face. But while I'm thinking these things, I have to realize that those two may be a possibility. Like, it might take a long time for me to solve it, and it might be a very tremendous challenge, but how do I know if I can face it if I don't give it a try? And that's what I have to do. I have to always think about how will facing this challenge benefit me in the future? How will it affect me in a way that when I do face this challenge again, will I know what to do the next time? So when you're facing challenges and when you don't know what to do, just remember that because you don't know, that is something and a question that should be answered. Because you don't know, it's a thrill when you do know, when you face the challenge.
Thank you for that. And we want you to know that our amazing co-host Trish does our music for the opening and closing of our theme songs. And if you want to find out more about, Trish's Treasures, go ahead and hashtag Trish's Treasures. And her music, because she sings, she can put it right here so that you can find it. We appreciate you guys. Our final question of the day is, what did you learn from today's podcast on facing challenges or challenges faced, and how did it make you feel? We're going to start with Trish.
Today, I learned that if I'm questioning whether what if in a situation, that means the next time when I get that opportunity, I'm going to actually put in the work and experience that. Because socializing with people and joining in social events, I always wonder, what if I went? Everyone said it was fun. Like, what if I went there? I would have fun and meet new people. And sometimes I think about that, and it's up to me. It's all a choice for me. So that's what I learned. And my experience here today, it was triggering, talking about the fear and the loneliness, but that's okay.
The question goes to me, what did I learn today? The reason we bring you finally Friday's podcast and ask you the question along with it, what challenges have you faced, past or present? Because we want you to know that you're so important to us that every mind matters. Every mind matters. No matter who you are, what your background is, young and old alike, because we talked about the elderly too. If you got to really know everyone's story, think about how long that would take you. That would take you more than a lifetime, because there are thousands of people that we still don't know. But just the small connection that you have that surrounds you each and every day. We take too liberally the words, how are you today? When we say that, let's really listen to the mind. Let's really key into the heart, because everybody is not okay. Everybody is not just fine. I want to speak on a moment of something that's recently been on the news, and we do always have challenge stories. I want to talk about comedian, stand-up comedian Monique. We're going to take attention off of her for 1 minute, because I'm not here for that. I want to talk about her son, Shalon Jackson. My heart goes out to you. Why does my heart go out to you? Because of your standing on business. You did that in such a graceful way. Two things that he said. People fall in love with characters without really knowing their truths. And I'm going to leave it right there, because we've had a podcast on your truth, my truth, and everybody else's truth. But we have to stand on what is the truth. And I was so proud of him for the way that he gracefully handled what he handled. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please, please, please look at it. Because the only way that you're going to be able to let someone know what's on your mind is by speaking up and speaking out. I'm so proud of him. May we learn to let others know what is on our mind. Sometimes we can push people away. I know, because I've done that. When we ask you the question, what challenges have you faced, past or present? What are you currently dealing with? You might be dealing with something so overwhelming that you really do need to talk to someone. We're making ourselves available. You can text, you can voicemail, and even on our podcast, you can be left. You can leave, a voicemail. We'll always get your messages, and let us know if it's urgent. We always will point you to, don't forget the suicide hotline, please, if you need help. But we just want to make a difference in one more person's life. We thank you for making Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast what it has become. Thank you, everyone, for this entire week. Don't forget, Saturday night, Vibe Talk After Dark. I asked the question, what song can I play for you if you've got any wedding celebrations, proposals, anything that's inspirational. We stay away from controversy. And if you don't think that I see your questions, I will answer them after the show. I believe that Paisley had a question, Paisley. I thought I answered that. Who wrote the Bible was your question. Because it's not a show about that, I want you to know that I saw that. And if you look into the Bible, who do you think wrote the Bible? Because the Bible has been able to change and challenge people. I don't know any books like that. So we're going to leave that to you. First, I want to encourage you to read it. And once you read it, who do you think wrote the Bible? And the reason why we do that, because you all have your own thinking minds. We respect each other at levels of where we all are. This is strictly a show or a podcast about your mind. What I may think is totally different, and we respect each other where they are. But I challenge you to open up the Bible and start reading it, and then you can answer your question. If I gave you every answer, it might not be the right one for you. What I believe and think, you might not agree with. So we respect each other. And thank you for the question. I saw it when it came up, and I thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Thank you, guys. I don't want you just to make a resolution. I want you to think about I was really by the blues and then I got the vibe with it. I really took the time with it. Really nothing wrong with it. 3 years, really got the vibe with it. Took the time with it. I really let the ride with it. You can really see I'm better you. When you get the vibe with it, yeah. When you get the vibe with it, yeah. Just saying something. It's about commitment.